In 1984, a chaotic police academy filled with unconventional recruits hit the big screen and quickly became a part of global cinematic memory. Mahoney, Hightower, Jones, Tackleberry, and Lassard didn't just generate laughs. They ushered many of the actors' careers into entirely new chapters. Over 40 years later, the lives of that cast have evolved in vastly different directions. Let's revisit Police Academy and catch up with the people behind the familiar characters. If you love classic Hollywood, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. In 1984, when Police Academy became one of the defining comedies of the era, Kim Cattrall was still in the early stages of building her reputation in Hollywood. In the film, she played Karen Thompson, an intelligent, composed cadet who gradually grows close to Carrie Mahoney. This wasn't the biggest role of Cattrall's career, but it was a notable milestone before she entered her more successful years. After Police Academy, Cattrall consistently challenged herself with a variety of character types. She appeared in Big Trouble in Little China Mannequin and numerous other film and television projects, gradually establishing herself as an actress capable of adapting to both comedy and drama. The biggest turning point came in 1998 with Sex and the City, as Samantha Jones Cattrall became one of the series' 4 central figures and quickly gained global recognition. The role earned her numerous major nominations and a Golden Globe, taking her career to an entirely different level.
It has been an incredible journey. I arts for women in their 40s who could be funny and...
In the years that followed, Cattrall continued to work in television, film, and theater, but became increasingly selective with her projects. She didn't try to maintain a constant presence just to stay relevant, but focused instead on work that fit her current stage of life. Looking back at Karen Thompson today, audiences can see a Kim Cattrall from before her most famous era, when she was still more than a decade away from Samantha Jones, and no one could have known that the Police Academy cadet would eventually become one of the most familiar faces on American television. Moses Hightower caught everyone's attention the moment he appeared. But before Bubba Smith entered the world of Police Academy, he was famous in a completely different field. Smith was an outstanding football player at Michigan State before being selected first overall by the Baltimore Colts in the 1967 NFL Draft. He played professionally for the Baltimore Colts, Oakland Raiders, and Houston Oilers, and was a member of the Colts team that won Super Bowl V. When his sports career ended, Smith transitioned into acting. His towering stature made him easy to notice, but the success of the Hightower role wasn't just due to his physique. The character was often calm, soft-spoken, and responded very gently to the chaotic situations around him. That contrast turned Hightower into one of the most beloved cadets in the entire series. Smith continued to play this role in the first 6 installments of Police Academy. For many viewers who had never followed the NFL, Moses Hightower even became an image more synonymous with Bubba Smith than his years playing on the field. Afterward, Smith continued to appear in films, television shows, and commercials. He successfully built a second career without needing to deny his achievements in sports. Bubba Smith passed away in 2011 at the age of 66. He left behind a quite unique legacy, being remembered by 2 completely different audiences. To football fans, he was a big name in the NFL. To 1980s cinema lovers, he will forever be Hightower, the strongest man in the academy, but often also one of the calmest. Julie Brown appeared in Police Academy 2, their first assignment, as Chloe, a character with limited screen time, but beyond this film, she built a career that is difficult to summarize with a single label. Brown entered the entertainment industry with stand-up comedy and quickly developed her own style by combining comedy with satirical music. Her songs and performances often drew material from pop culture, particularly fitting the vibrant atmosphere of the 1980s. After Police Academy 2, Brown continued to expand her work into screenwriting. She co-developed Earth Girls Are Easy, a sci-fi comedy released in 1988 starring Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum, and took on a role in the film herself. By the 1990s, Brown appeared in Clueless as the gym teacher Ms. Stoger. When the story was adapted into a TV series, she continued her involvement, not just as an actress, but also by contributing to writing and producing.
I was so scared. I couldn't sleep for like days, and it kind of just stayed with me for like 3 days.
In later years, Brown continued to work in television, music, voice acting, and screenwriting. She also wrote for many projects aimed at younger audiences, showing her ability to adapt to different generations of entertainment. Therefore, Chloe is just a small point in Julie Brown's journey. What makes her career more memorable lies in the fact that she was never just in front of the camera. When needed, Brown could step into the writer's room, comedy stage, or recording studio and continue telling stories in a completely different form. Thaddeus Harris always wanted the Academy to operate by the rules. The problem was that almost no one around him intended to help that happen. G.W. Bailey made Harris one of the perfect foils for Carrie Mahoney. He didn't need to make the character overly ridiculous. The more serious Harris was, the more he tried to maintain control, and the more he believed he was about to restore order, the funnier the situations happening around him became. When Police Academy premiered in 1984, Bailey was already no stranger to American television.
Excuse me, sir. What do you want, Rizzo? In 3 syllables or...
Just thought I'd say hello and make sure that you was feeling...
Before that, he had played Staff Sergeant Luther Rizzo in MASH, one of the most famous TV series of that era. After the first film, Bailey was temporarily absent for the second and third installments before Harris returned in Police Academy 4. From then on, he continued to accompany the franchise through many subsequent films, helping Harris become one of the most recognizable characters in the series. But Bailey didn't let a comedy role from the 1980s define his entire career. In 2005, he appeared in The Closer as Louis Provenza. This character quickly became an important part of the series and continued to be played by Bailey in Major Crimes. He stuck with Provenza for over a decade, introducing himself to an entirely new generation of viewers. Beyond acting, Bailey spent many years with the Sunshine Kids Foundation, an organization supporting children undergoing cancer treatment. He took on an executive role at the organization in the early 2000s and maintained a long-term commitment to this activity. Harris once spent most of his time trying to control disobedient cadets.
Hey, GW.
Hey guys, how are you?
Are they ever going to do another Police Academy?
They would.
Are you going to be in it?
I would assume not.
No?
But G.W. Bailey's career followed a much broader path from classic sitcoms and comedy films to crime series spanning many years. After decades, he doesn't just have one memorable character, he has roles that belong to different generations of audiences. Do you remember G.W. Bailey more as Harris in Police Academy, or Provenza in The Closer and Major Crimes? Share your choice in the comments section. If you enjoy stories about familiar faces of cinema and television, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Laverne Hooks didn't need to speak loudly to make audiences remember her. In an academy full of loud personalities, Marion Ramsey created a difference with a soft-spoken voice, a reserved attitude, and the ability to completely change the character's energy just when the audience least expected it. Before coming to Police Academy, Ramsey had a significant theatrical background. She appeared on Broadway in Eubie and worked as an actress and singer before cinema brought her name to a wider audience. In 1984, Laverne Hooks became the most famous role in Ramsey's career. She continued to play the character in the first 6 parts of the franchise, helping Hooks develop from a shy cadet into a more confident officer, while still retaining her familiar charm. After her years with Police Academy, Ramsey did not maintain as heavy a presence in Hollywood as some of her co-stars. She still participated in some film, television, and theatrical projects and appeared many times at franchise-related events. In later years, Ramsey also reunited with some Police Academy members in the film La Valantula. Marion Ramsey passed away at her home in Los Angeles on January 7, 2021, at the age of 73. Hooks never needed to be the most prominent character in every scene. The attraction lay in the contrast that Ramsey created. Amid a world that was constantly boisterous, the cadet with the smallest voice became one of the people the audience remembered the longest. Peter Van Norden needed only one Police Academy film to become a familiar face to fans of the franchise. In Police Academy 2, their first assignment, he played Vinnie Stolman, one of the officers working alongside Mahoney and the new group of characters. But looking only at the 1985 film would overlook most of Van Norden's career. He spent many years working across stage film and television. On the big screen, Van Norden appeared in The Accused, and later had a role in The Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear.
And of course, at no legal cost to him, 3 men face prison.
On television, he appeared in a variety of series and played Ralph Brentner in the 1994 TV adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand. The stage also played an important role in his career. Rather than building his identity around a single franchise, Van Norden continued working as a character actor, moving between theater, film, and television roles for decades.
And on the clarity of the language. And there's a lot to be learned from that before you would get on your feet and try to move around.
On July 9, 2026, Peter Van Norden passed away at the age of 75. His family confirmed the news just over a month ago. Vinnie Stolman may have been only a brief chapter in Police Academy, but Peter Van Norden's career was anything but brief. He belonged to the kind of character actors audiences could encounter across many different productions over the years, not always at the center of the story, but consistently present enough to build a career spanning generations of film and television. From the moment Debbie Callahan walked into a room, viewers knew she wasn't someone who would easily get swept up in the cadets' chaos. Leslie Easterbrook shaped Callahan with confidence, discipline, and a commanding presence that stood in sharp contrast to the rule-breaking characters around her. Interestingly, before Police Academy came along, Easterbrook was already known to television audiences for playing Rhonda Lee on Laverne and Shirley. So Callahan was not the beginning of her career, but it ultimately became the role most closely associated with her name. Easterbrook appeared in 6 Police Academy films, from the original 1984 movie through Mission to Moscow in 1994. Over time, Callahan's rank and position within the Academy changed, but the character's strong commanding presence remained intact. After the franchise moved beyond its peak years, Easterbrook did not disappear from the screen. She continued building a long career with numerous television and film roles, while also moving into genres very different from the comedy of Police Academy. In the 2000s, she appeared in horror films such as The Devil's Rejects, showing that Easterbrook's screen identity extended far beyond Callahan. Perhaps it was that versatility that allowed her career to last far longer than the franchise that first made her famous. Debbie Callahan was created for a comedy, but Leslie Easterbrook never needed to turn the character herself into a joke. She played the role with enough seriousness that the chaos unfolding around her became even funnier. And more than 4 decades later, the sight of Callahan's uniform and distinctive hairstyle is still enough for many viewers to instantly feel like they are back in Police Academy. Leslie Barbara begins Police Academy as someone audiences would hardly expect to become a police officer. The character is often insecure, easily singled out by others and forced to find his footing among a group of cadets with much stronger personalities. Donovan Scott made Barbara's transformation memorable because he never turned him into an overnight hero. Barbara kept his awkward, gentle nature while gradually learning not to let other people define his worth. The 1984 Police Academy became Scott's best-known role among mainstream audiences, but he had already been working in film before then. Scott appeared in Steven Spielberg's 1941 and played Castor Oil in the 1980 film Popeye. After Police Academy, he continued working in film and television with appearances in Life with Lucy, Back to the Future Part 3, Boston Legal, Bones, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One interesting aspect of the later years of his career is that Scott was repeatedly cast as Santa Claus in movies and television productions.
Where I came through the door, tripped over an invisible rock.
Rather than becoming a star permanently tied to the image of Leslie, Barbara Scott continued working as a character actor, appearing in a wide range of projects whenever the right roles came along. Scott did not return as Barbara in the sequels, so the character's story ended with the very first film. But sometimes, one movie is enough. In a cast filled with characters like Mahoney Hightower Jones and Tackleberry, Leslie Barbara still carved out a place of his own because he represented a different kind of victory. He did not need to become the strongest person in the room. He only needed enough confidence to no longer be the same person who had walked into the academy on his first day. Zed did not make a quiet entrance into Police Academy. He practically burst into the movie's world with his strange voice, unpredictable movements, and an energy that could send any scene into chaos almost instantly. The man behind the character Bobcat Goldthwait had already developed a distinctive comedic style by that point. He began performing stand-up at a young age and drew attention for his unusual voice and highly energetic stage persona. When Police Academy 2 was released in 1985, Zed became Goldthwait's first major film role and quickly introduced him to a much wider audience. He returned for Police Academy 3 and Police Academy 4. But Goldthwait did not want to spend his entire career repeating Zed. He continued appearing in films such as One Crazy Summer and Scrooged, before gradually devoting more of his time to writing and directing. In 1992, he wrote, directed, and starred in Shakes the Clown. In the years that followed, Goldthwait continued making his mark behind the camera with projects such as World's Greatest Dad, God Bless America, and numerous television productions.
What's happening? How do you do? Hi, it's been me too. What's going on here? What's with the big fish? They're shooting the seagull tip.
Directing gradually became an important part of his professional identity. Goldthwait also continued performing stand-up, doing voice work, and taking on a variety of other projects, rather than simply relying on the persona that had made him famous in the 1980s. His current professional profile still reflects his work as a comedian, writer, director, actor, and voice actor. It is an interesting career shift. Zed was once the kind of character who seemed incapable of controlling anything happening around him.
Bill Cosby being a rapist on stage for 20 years.
Really?
But I didn't know it was true. You know, you just get lucky sometimes.
Bobcat Goldthwait, on the other hand, eventually chose to move behind the camera, a place where he became the one deciding the rhythm, perspective, and direction of the entire story. If Zed made you laugh every time he appeared in Police Academy, leave a comment and tell us which of his scenes you remember most. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you can keep rediscovering familiar faces and the stories behind some of the most iconic classic movies. Chief Henry Hurst often found himself in the middle of an academy where order could turn into chaos within minutes. George R. Robertson gave the character the necessary sense of authority and seriousness, creating an effective contrast with Lassard Mahoney and the many cadets with completely different personalities. He played Hurst in the first 6 Police Academy films, from 1984 through 1989. Outside the franchise, Robertson maintained an acting career that spanned decades in both Canada and the United States. He appeared in films such as Airport, Norma Ray, and JFK, and continued taking on roles in film and television later in his career. His career was never defined by a single character, even though Hearst remained the role many international audiences remembered him for most. George R. Robertson passed away in Toronto on January 29, 2023, at the age of 89. His family did not publicly disclose a specific cause of death. For Police Academy fans, Chief Hearst remains a familiar presence, the man constantly trying to maintain order and seriousness in a world where neither ever seemed to last very long. Larval Jones could change the entire mood of a room with nothing more than a sound. Without special props or visual effects, Michael Winslow used his own voice to imitate sirens, engines, mock gunfire, musical instruments, and countless other sounds. When Police Academy was released in 1984, that ability immediately made Jones one of the most recognizable characters in the film. Winslow went on to appear in all 7 movies in the franchise. That remarkable talent had already been developing long before Hollywood came calling. Winslow developed his talent for imitating sounds at a young age and gradually turned it into a professional performance style. He became known as the Man of 10,000 Sound Effects, a nickname that reflected his ability to use his voice almost like a musical instrument rather than simply a way to deliver dialogue. After the success of Police Academy, Winslow continued appearing in films. One of his most memorable roles outside the franchise was the radar technician in Mel Brooks's Spaceballs. But rather than focusing entirely on acting, Winslow brought his sound-making abilities to the stage where he could interact directly with audiences and make every performance feel different. There were periods when he appeared less frequently in mainstream film and television, but Winslow never stopped performing. In recent years, he has continued doing live comedy shows and appearing at a variety of events. His official website continues to highlight his live performances, and venues still promote Winslow for the very skill that made him famous more than 4 decades ago. What has kept Larval Jones alive in audiences' memories is not just the comedy in his dialogue. Winslow brought something to Police Academy that almost no one else in the cast could replicate. Whenever Jones suddenly produced an unexpected sound, audiences were not only laughing at the character, they were also wondering how one person could possibly create that sound without any machinery at all. When Kathleen Kirkland meets Eugene Tackleberry in Police Academy 2, the two seem to speak the same language, discipline training, and a shared enthusiasm for military-style activities. Colleen Camp gave Kathleen enough strength and personality to stand alongside Tackleberry rather than simply existing as a secondary romantic interest. Camp returned as Kathleen in Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, by which point the character had become Mrs. Kirkland Tackleberry. But her 2 appearances in the franchise represented only a small part of a much broader career. Before, Police Academy Camp had already appeared in Apocalypse Now and Valley Girl. The same year Police Academy 2 was released, she also played Yvette in Clue, a film that later developed a strong following and became a widely loved comedy classic. In the years that followed, Camp continued appearing in movies such as Die Hard with a Vengeance, Election, and American Hustle. What makes Colleen Camp's career different from many performers of her generation, however, is that she did not remain only in front of the camera. She gradually expanded into producing and built an extensive network of relationships throughout the film industry. A 2024 profile in The Hollywood Reporter described her as an influential figure behind the scenes in Hollywood, particularly for her ability to connect filmmakers, actors, and projects. She has continued appearing in new productions rather than stepping away from the industry entirely. That makes Kathleen Kirkland an interesting stop along the way rather than the single high point of her career. In Police Academy, Camp needed only 2 films to create a character who fit perfectly into Tackleberry's world. In real life, her career expanded in a much broader direction, from a familiar character actress to a longtime industry figure working both in front of and behind the camera. George Martin enters the first Police Academy with a level of confidence that sharply contrasts with many of the cadets still struggling to find their place. Andrew Rubin gave the character a smooth, charming, and humorous presence, but Martin appeared only in the 1984 film and never became a long-term member of the franchise. Rubin had trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and had already worked in both television and film before Police Academy was released. He appeared in The Jeffersons, Casey's Shadow, and later continued working in projects such as the television series Joe Bash. Even so, George Martin remained the role most mainstream audiences remembered when Andrew Rubin's name came up. Andrew Rubin passed away in Los Angeles on October 5, 2015, at the age of 69. He was part of Police Academy for only 1 film, but that was still enough to make George Martin a familiar face whenever audiences returned to the original class of cadets from 1984. Carl Sweetchuck hardly seemed like someone destined to join the police force. When he first appeared in Police Academy 2, he was simply a shop owner who was constantly harassed by Zed's gang. But the clash between an anxious, easily rattled Sweetchuck and the wildly unpredictable Zed created such an entertaining dynamic that both characters returned in completely different roles. By Police Academy 3, Sweetchuck had become a cadet, forcing him to train right alongside the very person who had once made his life miserable. Tim Kazurinsky used that contrast to create comedy without turning Sweetchuck into an overly exaggerated character. He continued playing the role in the 4th film. But before entering the world of Police Academy, Kazurinsky had already established himself in American comedy. After performing with the Second City in Chicago, he joined Saturday Night Live in 1981 as both a cast member and writer. He remained with the show until 1984. Then continued acting and writing for film, including co-writing About Last Night. Kazurinsky also stayed active on stage after his Police Academy years came to an end. He continued performing in Chicago on Broadway and in a wide range of television and film projects. Sweetchuck may have always looked like someone trying to escape trouble as quickly as possible. But Tim Kazurinsky's career moved in the opposite direction, from journalism and advertising to improv comedy, Saturday Night Live, film, and theater, a career built on continually stepping into new creative worlds. By the time Deborah Lee Scott appeared in Police Academy, she was already a familiar face on American television. Before playing Violet Fackler, Scott had been known for her work on Mary Hartman, Forever Fernwood, Welcome Back Kotter, and the sitcom Angie. Those roles helped make her a recognizable television personality throughout the 1970s. In the 1984 Police Academy, Scott played Doug Fackler's wife. She later returned in Police Academy 3 Back in Training, where Violet herself entered the training program. These were relatively brief appearances and represented only a small part of her overall career. Scott stepped away from regular acting work in the late 1980s and lived a more private life in the years that followed. She passed away in 2005 at the age of 52. For Police Academy fans, Violet Fackler remains a familiar supporting character. But for American television audiences of an earlier generation, Deborah Lee Scott had already built a memorable career long before she ever entered the Academy. Howard Hessman entered Police Academy 2 with an advantage that not every newcomer to the franchise had. Audiences already knew him very well. Before becoming Captain Pete Lassard, Hessman had already gained widespread recognition as radio DJ Dr. Johnny Fever on the sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. The role earned him 2 Emmy nominations and became one of the defining television performances of his career. So when he appeared as Pete Lassard in 1985 Police Academy 2 was really just one stop during a period when Hessman was already working at full speed. Around the same time he appeared on One Day at a Time, and beginning in 1986, he took on the role of teacher Charlie Moore in Head of the Class. Hessman stayed with the series for 4 seasons, creating another long-running television character that was completely different from Johnny Fever. He continued working steadily for decades, taking guest roles on television and appearing in films well into the later years of his career. Howard Hessman passed away in Los Angeles in 2022 at the age of 81. Pete Lassard may make him instantly recognizable to Police Academy fans, but the role never truly defined Howard Hessman's career. In the history of American television, Johnny Fever and Charlie Moore better demonstrate how one actor could leave a lasting impression on different generations of viewers in completely different ways. Kerry Mahoney did not enter the academy because he dreamed of becoming a police officer, and perhaps that was exactly what made him the perfect central character for Police Academy. Steve Guttenberg gave Mahoney a very distinctive kind of mischief. He constantly tested the limits of authority figures, especially Harris, while still remaining charming enough to keep audiences on his side. Mahoney became the central character of the first 4 films from Police Academy in 1984 through Citizens on Patrol in 1987. But what is most remarkable about Steve Guttenberg in the 1980s is that Police Academy was only one of several major successes that came almost back to back. Before that, he had already drawn attention with Diner. After Mahoney introduced Guttenberg to a much wider audience, he went on to appear in Cocoon, Short Circuit, and 3 Men and a Baby. In just a few years, Guttenberg became one of the most recognizable faces in mainstream American movies. When he left Police Academy after the 4th film, Guttenberg did not try to hold on to Mahoney at all costs. He continued working in film, television, theater, producing, and later writing books. The pace of his career changed over time, but he never truly disappeared from the entertainment industry. Another chapter in Guttenberg's life had little to do with Hollywood. When his father Stanley developed kidney problems, Guttenberg regularly traveled from Los Angeles to Arizona to be by his side during treatment. He and his sister were later trained to help manage his father's dialysis at home. That experience became the central focus of his 2024 book, Time to Thank Caregiving for My Hero. In early 2025, Guttenberg's name returned to the headlines under completely different circumstances.
Try to do the right thing all the time.
Right.
Try to be kind, be thoughtful.
Right.
And everything else works.
When the Palisades fire spread across Los Angeles, Guttenberg was reported to have helped move abandoned cars out of the way so emergency vehicles could get through. He later continued assisting neighbors in the affected area. That is a long way from the Mahoney audiences first met in 1984. Back then, Guttenberg became famous for playing a character who was always looking for ways to bend or break the Academy's rules. More than 4 decades later, the name Steve Guttenberg still brings Police Academy to mind, but his story has grown into many different chapters. 1980s movie star, longtime actor, author, caregiver to his father, and an active member of the community where he lives. Mahoney left the Academy a long time ago, but for many viewers, the moment that familiar Police Academy theme starts playing, Steve Guttenberg is still the first face that comes to mind. Doug Lennox did not play a recurring character throughout the franchise. In the first Police Academy film, the Canadian actor appeared in a small villainous role, then returned in Police Academy 3 as a different character. Outside the series, Lennox built a diverse career in Canada across radio, television, film, and writing. He appeared in numerous television series and had small roles in films from the X-Men franchise. Alongside his acting work, he was also known for his Now You Know book series. Doug Lennox remained active almost until the end of his life and passed away in Toronto in 2015 at the age of 77. For Lennox, Police Academy was only a very small part of a career that lasted roughly half a century, one that extended far beyond the few minutes audiences saw him on screen in the franchise. Proctor was rarely the one coming up with the plan. More often, he was the guy standing beside Harris or Mauser, eagerly following orders and somehow making the situation even more complicated. That wide-eyed cluelessness helped Lance Kinsey turn a supporting character into one of the familiar faces of Police Academy across 5 films from the second installment through the 6th. Before coming to Hollywood, Kinsey studied drama at Vanderbilt University, worked with the Actors Theater of Louisville, and then found his way into the world of improvisational comedy. He later performed at the Second City in Chicago, an environment that helped shape the quick reactions and natural comedic timing audiences would later see in Proctor. After his Police Academy years, Kinsey not only continued acting but also moved into writing and producing. He wrote for the Disney animated series The Weekenders and became involved in a number of independent projects. More than 4 decades after first putting on Proctor's uniform, Kinsey has remained connected with fans of the franchise and continues to appear at fan events. In 2026, he was still being promoted as a guest at Comic-Con Brno and Jr. Proctor was never the smartest person at the Academy, and he never needed to be. Kinsey understood that the character's charm came from his complete sincerity. Proctor was always trying to do the right thing, even when the result usually gave his superiors another headache. For Ted Ross, Police Academy was only a small part of a career that had already reached major heights on Broadway. In 1975, Ross won a Tony Award for playing the Cowardly Lion in The Wiz, the musical inspired by The Wizard of Oz. 3 years later, he reprised the role in the film adaptation alongside Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, Richard Pryor, Nipsey Russell, and Lena Horne. When Ross appeared in the 1984 Police Academy as Captain Reed, he played an important role in setting the story in motion. Reed is the one who gives Mahoney a choice between facing the consequences of his latest trouble or entering the Police Academy. Ross continued working in film and television before gradually stepping away from acting. After suffering a stroke in 1998, his health declined. He passed away in Dayton, Ohio in 2002 at the age of 68. For Police Academy fans, Captain Reed is the man who helped send Mahoney through the Academy gates. But in Ted Ross's career, the Tony Award and his portrayal of the Cowardly Lion remain the clearest legacy of his remarkable stage talent. Georgina Spelvin appeared only in very small roles in Police Academy and Police Academy 3, so the franchise was never a major part of her career. Before that, Spelvin had worked as a dancer and performed on the New York stage before becoming widely known in the adult entertainment industry during the 1970s. She left that field in the early 1980s and later made a number of appearances in mainstream film and television projects. Later in life, Spelvin moved into desktop publishing and worked for the Los Angeles Times before retiring in 2004. So Police Academy was only a very brief chapter in Georgina Spelvin's unusual career journey, rather than the role that defined her name. Doug Fackler has a special talent for creating chaos without always realizing what he has just done. Bruce Mahler used a calm expression and an almost carefree way of reacting to turn Fackler into one of the franchise's most memorable sources of physical comedy. He played the character in 4 Police Academy films, beginning with the original 1984 movie and making his final appearance in Police Academy 6, City Under Siege. Before that, Mahler had been a cast member on the sketch comedy series Fridays. After Police Academy, Mahler appeared in a variety of other projects, including a recurring role as Rabbi Glickman on Seinfeld, which introduced him to another generation of television viewers. He also had small roles in Hook, Loaded Weapon 1, and several other films. After many years in the business, Mahler stepped away from regular acting to focus more on writing and producing. Fackler never needed long speeches. The moment Mahler entered what seemed like an ordinary situation, Police Academy audiences already had reason to suspect that something was about to go completely off course. Mauser wants to be respected, but in the world of Police Academy, the harder he tries to assert his authority, the more likely he is to end up on the receiving end of the most unexpected joke. Art Metrano appeared as Mauser in Police Academy 2, their first assignment, and Police Academy 3, Back in Training. The character became a direct rival to Mahoney and the cadets, bringing a different kind of comedy from Harris, more ambitious, more self-assured, and often completely convinced that he had everything under control. Metrano had already been working as a comedian for many years before joining the franchise. He gained attention on American television through his comedy performances, especially a mock magic routine in which simple movements were presented as if they were part of a mysterious illusion. His career later expanded into film and television before Mauser introduced him to an even wider international audience. In 1989, Metrano's life changed after an accident at home caused a serious spinal injury. His recovery took a long time, but he gradually regained some mobility and later brought that experience to the stage in a one-man show. Rather than simply recounting what had happened to him, Metrano used comedy to talk about the process of adapting to a new way of life. He continued to perform occasionally and made a number of screen appearances in the years that followed. Art Metrano passed away at his home in Florida on September 8, 2021, at the age of 84. His family said he died of natural causes. Mauser appeared in only 2 Police Academy films, but Art Metrano's journey extended far beyond that character. He began by making audiences laugh, faced an unexpected turning point in his life, and eventually found his way back to the stage through the very thing that had been with him from the beginning: comedy. Doug Lennox may not be the first name that comes to mind when people think of Police Academy, but the career behind those brief appearances is well worth rediscovering. If you'd like us to keep looking back at actors who appeared in classic movies, let us know in the comments who you want to see next. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter in this series. Eric Lassard may not have been the loudest character in Police Academy, but he was the one who somehow held that chaotic world together. George Gaines turned the Academy Commandant into a character who was gentlemanly absent-minded and unpredictable all at once, creating a style of comedy very different from Harris or Mahoney. He played Lassard in all 7 films in the franchise, from the original 1984 movie through Mission to Moscow in 1994. But by the time Police Academy introduced Gaines to a massive mainstream audience, he was already in his 60s and had spent decades building a long and varied career. Born in Helsinki, Gaines served in the Royal Netherlands Navy during World War II. After the war, he pursued music, opera, and Broadway before gradually moving into American film and television. Shortly before Police Academy, Gaines appeared in Tootsie. Around the same time he was playing Lassard, he also took on the role of Henry Warnemont in the sitcom Punky Brewster. That role introduced him to an entirely different generation of viewers and became one of the most memorable television characters of his career. Gaines continued working after the peak years of both projects, appearing in films such as The Crucible, Wag the Dog, and finally Just Married in 2003. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 98. Perhaps Lassard suited George Gaines so well precisely because he never tried to compete for laughs through sheer chaos. Surrounded by cadets constantly breaking the rules and subordinates forever losing their patience, he only had to remain calm. And in doing so, a man whose life had taken him through war, opera, Broadway, film, and television became the face of one of the strangest academies in 1980s cinema. Chad Copeland had a very clear role in Police Academy. He was not someone Mahoney and the other cadets were likely to get along with easily. Scott Thompson played Copeland in the original 1984 film, then returned in Police Academy 3 and Police Academy 4. Over time, the character evolved from a cadet who clashed with the main group into a familiar officer within the franchise. Outside Police Academy, Thompson built his career largely through character roles. He appeared in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, RoboCop, Twister, Jack Frost, and numerous television shows including Star Trek: The Next Generation and True Blood. Thompson never became the kind of star who regularly stood at the center of the story, but he remained the sort of familiar face audiences could recognize years later. By 2026, he was still appearing at fan events where Police Academy continued to be a prominent part of his career. Copeland was never designed to take over the entire story, but characters like him provided the contrast that helped Mahoney and the other cadets stand out even more. Don Lake appeared only briefly in the first Police Academy film as Lou, often credited as Mr. Wig, so the 1984 movie was only a small milestone in a career that would grow much more significantly in the years that followed. The Canadian actor continued working across acting, writing, and producing. He appeared in projects such as Terminator 2: Judgment Day, Hot Shots, Dumb and Dumber 2, and several films directed by Christopher Guest. Lake also became known for playing Dr. Carl Whitehorn on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. A younger generation of viewers may be more familiar with his voice than his face. Lake voiced Stu Hopps in the Zootopia universe and later played General Brad Gregory in the series Space Force. His current professional credits still list him as an actor, writer, and producer. For Don Lake, Police Academy was never the role that defined his career. It was simply one of the early appearances of a performer who would go on to spend decades working in many different areas of the entertainment industry. Eugene Tackleberry approached almost every situation with the same level of seriousness. David Graff understood that the character was funniest when Tackleberry himself had absolutely no idea he was being funny. Graff played the role in all 7 Police Academy films, making him one of the few actors to stay with the franchise from the original movie all the way through Mission to Moscow. Over time, Tackleberry evolved from a cadet with an intense military mindset into an officer, a husband, and one of the most dependable members of the group. Before the 1984 film was released, Graff had already taken on a number of small television roles, including appearances on MASH, The Dukes of Hazzard, and The A-Team. After Police Academy became a hit, he continued working steadily rather than relying solely on Tackleberry. Television audiences in the 1990s could spot Graff in shows such as Seinfeld, Night Court, Home Improvement, Quantum Leap, and The West Wing. He also appeared in both Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager, playing characters completely different from the police officer who made him famous. Beyond acting, Graff was also actively involved with the Screen Actors Guild, taking on several roles within the organization and focusing on working conditions and performers' rights. On April 7, 2001, David Graff died of a heart attack while attending a family wedding in Arizona. He was only 50 years old. Tackleberry may have been built around one very clear personality trait, but Graff carried the character through 7 films without losing his ability to make audiences laugh. In the end, Tackleberry's absolute seriousness became one of the franchise's most enduring running jokes. By the time Arthur Botanides first appeared as Mr. Kirkland in Police Academy 2, he was already a veteran character actor with decades of experience. Botanides became interested in performing while serving in the military in Europe during World War II, where he entertained fellow servicemen with comedy routines. He later studied acting at the Actors Lab in Los Angeles and built a television career that stretched across several decades. Before Police Academy, he had already appeared in well-known series such as The Twilight Zone, Mission Impossible, Bonanza, Columbo, and Star Trek. By the 1980s, Mr. Kirkland had become one of Botanides' most memorable later career roles. He appeared as the character in 4 films in the franchise. Police Academy 6, City Under Siege in 1989 also became Botanides' final screen appearance before he retired from acting. He passed away in Los Angeles in 2000. To Police Academy audiences, he was the hot-tempered father of the Kirkland family. But long before entering that world, Arthur Botanides had already spent nearly 4 decades appearing in films and television series across several generations. 40 years is enough time for Hollywood to change almost completely, yet just a few seconds from an old movie can still take us right back to the moment we first watched it. That is the lasting power of Police Academy. The actors in this video followed very different paths, but the films they created together continue to find new audiences. If you could rewatch just one character tonight, who would you choose? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy revisiting Hollywood's past, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.